Hello students. In this video lecture, I am going to explain you a reading technique topic, that is reading in detail. In other words, we call it as intensive reading also. Reading in detail or intensive reading sometimes be called as active reading also. So what are the strategies that we can apply under this reading in detail or intensive reading skill? Will come to learn or will come to know in this PPT. Reading in detail. This is when you pay attention to every single word and spend time thinking about what each individual sentence means. So to understand a text fully, however, you have to read it a lot more carefully. This doesn't mean that you have to read every word or that you have to read slowly. The secret is to read effectively. So few strategies that we can follow to improve our understanding level or our comprehension level in this reading process includes visualizing, making inferences, asking relevant questions, making predictions and connections. So first we'll take visualizing. What is visualizing? Visualizing refers to our ability to create pictures in our heads based on text. So when we read some text, when we are reading, during that process, we create some pictures in our mind based on our reading or based on the things whatever described in the text. So it is one of many skills that makes reading comprehension possible. Visualizing strengthens reading comprehension skills. As you gain a more thorough understanding of the text you are reading by consciously using the words to create mental images. As you gain more deliberate practice with this skill, the act of visualizing text becomes automatic. So if you visualize, you not only have a richer reading experience, but you can recall what you have read for long periods of time. So for example, read these lines. As he walked, the waves rushed up around his legs, and he could feel the coarse sand between his toes. When you are just reading such type of text, usually a description kind of thing, so each and every part of the sentence visualizes a picture in your mind, like it creates a picture in your mind, which you can really visualize the thing what is happening. So as he walked, you could visualize a picture of a person who is walking. The waves rushed up around his legs. Probably it would be a beach. And he could feel the coarse sand between his toes. Like you could visualize the whole thing in your mind as if someone was walking and the waves were striking his legs and the course of sand that was just on his toes and all these things. Like when you are reading, if you visualize the thing, what happens is like you can have a better understanding about that and you can remember that for a long time. This is one strategy in intensive reading. The other thing is making inferences. Let us see an example. Here you could see a picture. This is a basic step of making inferences actually. Elementary level of understanding. When you see this picture, a small boy was sitting with a plate, and what you could infer from this picture, it is like possible inference would be the boy doesn't like vegetables because a plate of vegetables is there before him and he was sitting with a scarf, like evidence. So why we have made this inference? What made us to infer in such a way that the boy doesn't like vegetables? The evidence that we have is he has a plate of veggies in front of him and a scowl on his face. So usually when people look at this picture, they infer from this picture that the boy doesn't like vegetables. So based on the evidence, we could infer something through pictures. The student might use his or her own feelings about veggies to understand what he might be thinking. That means already whatever the knowledge that you have about the thing, the previous knowledge also helps you to infer something from what you look or what you read. See the second example. Here, the possible inference through this picture is the girl wants to buy something like chips, but her mom is not going to allow it. So, what is the evidence that we could infer is the girl looks like she is hopeful her mom might let her put the chips in the shopping cart, but the mom is holding up her hand as if to say no. So, by looking at this picture itself, we come to know, we make an inference that girl wants to buy something, but her mom is not going to allow it. So, in such a way, reading also, while you are reading some text, we make some inferences based on the evidence or clues what we can find in that text. So what is making inference is, an inference is an idea or conclusion that's drawn from evidence and reasoning. An inference is an educated guess. So the previous knowledge what you have about that text or about the content in the text, and the evidence or the clues that you find in the text, both of them, they combinedly help you to infer something from the given text. Making an inference is a result of process. It requires reading a text, noting specific details, and then putting those details together to achieve a new understanding. Let us see one example. My family and I have everything we need: tickets, popcorn, and candy. When you read this line, so what you come to know is the family is planning to go somewhere. Somewhere in the sense which place, like what the things that they carry to the place are also given clearly, that is tickets, popcorn, and candy. Usually people carry these things to a theater. So we could imagine, we can make an inference based on the evidence that the family is going to a movie. So in the same way, see the next sentence. Sam sat with a puzzled look on his face and then raised his hand in a class. So Sam is a student, he's sitting in a class and the class is going on. Of course, a puzzled look is a clue that he has got some confusion, or he didn't understand something, and then raised his hand in class. So what we could infer is Sam has a question or is confused about something. So let us take one more example. We all grabbed our raincoats and umbrellas. So by looking at these words, grabbed, raincoats, and umbrellas, these three words, gives us clue that it's raining outside. So like by reading the text itself, we can infer some meaning through the clues, some of the clues that were available in the text. Now let us see one more example. Here we have a group of sentences. Old Mr. Chicken was standing by the side of the road. He heard what sounded like a big truck coming. He decided to cross the road anyway. Unfortunately, he never made it to the other side. Poor old Mr. Chicken. So, after reading these lines, what is that you could infer? The author probably wants us to think that Mr. Chicken was run over by the truck. How do we come to know? So this is an inference what we can make after reading this text. But how we can make this inference? Like how do we know that the thing happened? The author gives us clues. Mr. Chicken was standing by the side of the road. Something that sounded like a big truck was coming. Mr. Chicken decided to cross the road anyway. Mr. Chicken never made it to the other side. So something is there in between these lines that author is trying to make us understand. And so he has given a clue, poor old Mr. Chicken. Now, the author never says that Mr. Chicken was run over by the truck, but we are given just enough information to think that this is what happened. The author seems to want us to think that Mr. Chicken was run over by a truck, and we do. That's called making an inference. It's also called reading between the lines. Making an inference means understanding something from the text that the author doesn't tell us directly. So this may be referred to as reading between the lines. It is through inference that words take on meaning and text makes sense. So, like author never mentioned that chicken was no more. But by reading these things, by taking up the clues, whatever that are available in the text itself, we made an inference that the chicken was run over by a truck. So this is how we make inferences through reading. Now, the other strategy is asking questions. So visualization is one of the most important thing that improves your understanding level of what you are reading. And the other one is making inference also helps you to what extent you understood the thing. And third strategy is asking questions. Of course, in between, when you are reading something, in between, if you start putting questions to yourself, so that you come to know to what extent you understood or whether you are going in the right direction or not. Asking questions will provide students with a purpose for reading. As they read, students will seek answers to their questions for deeper meaning of the text. Students can ask questions for a variety of reasons. So, what are the reasons that the students would be asking questions? Or like to clarify meaning. So, what does that word mean? So, usually, when you just read something, you come across a lot of new words which you do not know the meaning for. And so you'll be asking like yourself, what does that word mean? What is that happening? What am I learning? So it's not only a vocabulary, but whatever the context, whatever the things that you are reading on, like you'll have a lot of doubts about that text. So what is happening next, or what am I learning, or what does that word mean? So to understand the characters and events better, so like, why did the character do that? Why did that happen? What would happen if? So such questions, if you put, you'll get some answer to that question that makes you, to that makes you understand to what level you can understand the text. Like to understand the author's intent. Like why did the author write this? To make predictions also sometimes. I wonder if that would happen. So such a way, like we just put a lot of questions to ourselves to make us more clear about what we are reading or what is happening in the text. Now we have a few types of questions, like thick questions and thin questions. Thick questions, in the sense the questions make you think and help you analyze the story for deeper understanding. So the question words that you use usually to frame thick questions is why, how. And for these questions, you need some evidence from the text to answer, and it makes us think. And also, you could have many answers to these things. So we have other type of questions like thin questions. The questions help you clarify and fix your understanding of the story. For such questions, we use usually big question like where, what, when, who. So such basic questions, like they are easy to answer and answers right in the text. You can find the answers in the text itself directly. Yes or no questions, of course, and typically has one answer. For such questions, we'll get only one answer. That's easy to find the answers from the text itself. But thick questions are not like that. You have to, like, it depends how you analyze the thing. So it depends on to what level you understood the text. So that, those are little deeper, and you need some evidence to answer such type of questions. So when you are asking, we ask in two ways. That is, we just put ourselves very basic questions, or we just try to analyze the text by putting thick questions. Now the other strategy is making predictions. It is important to understand the difference between inferences and predictions. So although they are relatable, they're not the same. When you predict, you guess what will happen next based on what you already know from the text and your background knowledge. When you infer, you make a guess about what is currently happening. So that is the difference. So when you predict, you guess what will happen next, but when you infer, you make a guess about what is happening, currently happening. So for example, you see a baby crying. So this is a context. You see a baby crying. A sensible inference for why the baby is currently crying is that the baby is hungry or tired. While a sensible prediction might be that the mom or dad of the baby will come and pick the baby up to soothe him. So here, prediction is what will happen next. But here, inference is what is currently happening. So the baby is crying. Why is happening is, might be the baby is hungry or tired. So that would, you make an inference based on the evidence and based on what is happening currently. But when you make a prediction, you predict the things, what will happen next. So take an example. Raghav and I tried to pack light, but we made sure not to forget our bathing suits and sunscreen lotion. I wasn't sure if I would get seasick again. So I packed some medicine just in case. So what is that you predict is going to happen? That they are going to a beach or seaside. So what are the clues that we get from the reading is, I try to pack light, that is they're going on a trip. And bathing suit, sunscreen lotion, probably it would be seaside or beach. I wasn't sure if I would get seasick again. That means they already visited once. They already visited once, and now it's not for the first time they are going to such a trip. So I packed some medicine just in case. That means the person usually gets seasick. That is the information what we get. By all these clues, what we can predict is, like, the people, the family, they are going on a trip to seaside. Now readers can predict what the book will be about. So where and in which context the predictions happen? Predict what the book will be about by looking at the titles and illustrations that are provided there. You'll get a view of what this book will be about. So in that way we can predict. And predict the author's purpose. Is the author trying to convince us of something? Does the author want to teach us something? So that we come to know all these things when we read the thing. When we are reading the thing, we can predict that he's trying to convince us of something, or he's trying to teach us something, like that. Predict future events in the book. So reader bases these predictions on previous events or chapter words and actions. So based on these things, he tries to predict what is going to happen in the next chapters. Predict why an author included a specific text feature. So sometimes we predict based on the clues that we get from the text. We try to predict why author included such a specific text feature. What does it teach us? What information does it help clarify? Predict what they will learn from the text or section within a text. So by using titles, headings and subheadings, we try to predict that what is that we are learning from the text or section within a text. Predict what would happen next at the end of the book if it were to continue. So these are some of the reasons why we predict when we are reading a text. And the other and last strategy which helps you to improve your understanding levels of the reading is contextual clues, using contextual clues. So contextual clues, what are they? Contextual clues are bits of information from the text that, when combined with prior knowledge, allow you to decide the meaning of unknown words in the story or article you are reading. So it's like, to make your understanding much better, we use some clues within the text itself. As a reader, you must act similar to a detective and put together clues from the sentences surrounding an unknown word in order to make an intellectual guess as to what the definition of a word is. So sometimes we come across many new words or many phrases which we don't understand, or which we don't know the meaning of that. But what we do is, we just try to guess the meaning of that word or phrase by reading the previous paragraph, or by reading the previous sentence, or by reading the sentence which is coming next, so that you can find a clue which you can put together to guess the meaning of that particular word, or to guess the meaning of that phrase. So how we do that? How do they help you read new words? Textbook writers and authors include words or phrases to help their readers understand the meaning of a new or difficult word. So it's like you can find the clue from the sentence itself. It's not just the authors leave you with an unfamiliar word, but they try to give a meaning of that word in a phrase, or a similar word or a synonym in the same text, so that you people can guess the meaning easily. So these words or phrases are built into the sentences around the new or difficult word. By becoming more aware of the words around a difficult word, readers can make logical guesses about the meanings of many words. So let us see definition of contextual clues or words that say stop, don't touch the dictionary. The definition of the word you do not know is right here in the text. So sometimes what happens is we find a new word, and along with the new word, a definition of that word also will be provided by the author. So what it suggests is there is no need of you people going and referring that word in a dictionary. Instead, you can find the meaning of that, or instead you can find the definition of that word right in the text itself. See this example. There are many theories or ideas about what made the ice ages happen. So here theories, if you don't know the meaning of this particular word, the very similar word is given next to that particular word, that is ideas. Like in this sentence, the word ideas tells us that theories or different thoughts people have about something. So there's no need of again going for a dictionary to search the meaning of that particular word. Let us see one more thing. After a time, glaciers or slowly moving rivers of ice formed over many parts of the earth. We don't know exactly the meaning of this particular word. The author has provided a clue by adding this definition to that: slowly moving rivers of ice. So immediately you come to know what is glacier or what are glaciers. Slowly moving rivers of ice. So you can guess the meaning of the word from the text itself by looking at the clues or the definitions of contextual clues which are given here. So in this sentence, the word slowly moving rivers of ice tells us what glaciers are. The other one is synonym contextual clues, or words around a difficult word that mean the same or nearly same as the word. When you find such a unfamiliar word with, like in the text, immediately you can look for another word which gives the similar meaning to that word, and you can take that clue to understand that new word. After seeing the picture of the starving children, we felt compassion or pity for their sufferings. So compassion, or they have provided a similar word again, pity. So if you don't know the meaning of compassion, immediately you can guess the word pity. Like by looking at the word pity itself, you come to know what compassion is. So pity tells us that compassion means to have understanding for. Mary admonished her students, and they knew they were in hot water for their actions. They were in hot water. This itself gives a clue what admonished means. Like in this sentence, the words in hot water tells us that admonished means something like, caution or scolding. Antonym contextual clues. So it's not only the similar words, but opposite word also sometimes gives you clue to guess the meaning of that word in a context. So for example, Joe was reluctant to take the job of a captain of the team. He was afraid that the time it would take would hurt his grades. On the other hand, Bill was eager for the chance to be the team captain. On the other hand, it itself shows that the statement what is going to come ahead is something opposite to what is said earlier. Like he was reluctant, but he was eager in the sense like something it is opposite to reluctant. Now we can come to know the meaning, we can guess the meaning of that reluctant. So on the other hand, and eager tells us that Billy feels the opposite of what Zoe feels. Therefore reluctant means uncertain or cautious. So contextual clues practice activity, like you just imagine a situation. Your friend Rian has moved to a new country and is learning a new language. Read what he wrote in his diary and see if you can figure out the meaning of the underlined words. Here for example, like to what extent you can find the clues, or you can make use of the contextual clues to guess the to guess the meaning of the words, unknown words or unfamiliar words in this text. So I overslept this morning. I had to eat my bowl of puff-puffs very quickly, and I almost missed the tram jam. When I got to school, I realized I had forgotten my zilping. Luckily, Miss Jessie is very Jewish and told me I could bring it tomorrow. After school, some friends and I played plingming. It's a new game I am learning. We scored 7 points and they've only scored 5 points, so we were the Zoeteers. Dad says the next weekend we are going to the flatter. I can't wait. I love to swim and play in the sand. I hope I don't get a sunburn though. Well, I better go to bed soon. I don't want to wake up late again and miss my tram jet. So it's a text actually, and for your convenience, I just underlined the words, new words, which we come across in this text. Poof poofs. So, how to guess the meaning of these words in a context by using the clues is like it is something which is eatable that we come to know. And of course, the part of the day is morning. And what he's saying is, I had to eat my bowl. That means pufus goes into a bowl. That means what we could guess is it would be something morning breakfast, which is taken as a morning breakfast. And of course, as he mentioned a bowl here, so it would be something like a bowl of cereals. And almost I missed the tram when I got to school. That means here the next line itself gives you clue that tram is some a kind of vehicle in which he goes to school every day. That might be probably a school bus or school van. And I realized I had forgotten my zilping. So zilping, we don't know the meaning of this. Now, when we just read the whole text, then of course somewhere we can find the clue of this. When I got to school, I realized I had forgotten my zilping. Luckily, Miss Zuzi is very Jewish and told me I could bring it tomorrow. So might be she is her teacher, and Zush is also a new word here and told me I could bring it tomorrow. That means probably Zilbing is the book had have homework or something what is given by his teacher, and is very Jewish and told me I could bring it tomorrow. That means like this word completely gives a positive picture of the person. I mean, might be she has given her permission to bring that the next day. And after school, some friends I played plingming. Maybe played in the sense like it might be a game. It's a new game, so they have given a clue here. We scored 7 points, and they only scored 5 points, so we were the Zoiters. So 7 points. He has given a clue, and the team they have scored only 5 points. So these people would be the winners, and so Zoiters means winners. And Dad says that next weekend we are going to the flatter. What do you mean by the flatter again? I can't wait. I love to swim and play in the sand. So these clues, swim, probably it would be something related to water, and play in the sand. Of course, it would be a beach or seaside. I hope I don't get a sunburn though. So this would be a possible clue that flatter means a seaside place or a beach. Well, I better go to bed soon. I don't want to wake up late again and miss my tramjan. Again, tramjan, the vehicle in which he goes to school every day. It's not the exact meaning, but contextual meaning. Of course, by looking at the clues of this, in the context, we can guess the meaning of those words. Instead of, like, whenever you come across a new word, instead of running for a dictionary, try to make use of the clues in the context itself to guess the meaning and, move further in your reading. So this would be a possible and a helpful activity for you, that is guessing through contextual clues. Now what is that we have learned in this video is like reading in detail, that is intensive reading. So to read or to understand a text in depth or to understand in deep, like you need to follow few strategies which would help you to improve your understanding levels or improve your comprehension levels. And what are those strategies? Or visualization, that means visualize things in your mind as you read, use the details from the text to create pictures in your mind and try to describe the images you see as the author describes them. So this process, what happens is like if you have a better understanding about that through pictures, you could remember it for a long time. Ask questions, stop occasionally. It's not just go on reading the whole text, but in between you have to ask yourself whether you understand to check whether you understand the text or not. If not, reread what you have read. So if you're not able to answer the questions, so what is that is you need a second reading of that to have a better understanding. Pay attention to the sequencing of the events or ideas in the text. Now, the other strategy is making inferences. So, infer or guess what is meant by using clues from the text itself. Use contextual clues. Determine the meaning of unfamiliar words by looking at the context. These are the, and making connections also. It's not just getting the understanding the text by using these contextual clues, but you have to make connections also. Think about how you connect personally with what you are reading by referring back to what you have known, experienced, seen, heard, or read about earlier. If you have any personal experience of such a thing, what you are reading in the text, try to refer back to what you have known or what you have experienced, and try to connect that to what you are reading, so that you'll have a better understanding. So all these strategies that really helps you to improve your intensive reading, or to improve your reading in detail, or to improve your comprehension levels. So this is all about reading in detail, or intensive reading. Thank you.